That's a great question because I get that question a lot where people say, well, this is my situation. This is what I earn. What should I do? And always ask people, well, more importantly, to the as is, you just shared with me about the reality. What do you really want for yourself? So what is it that you would want for yourself, in 10, 20, 30 years from now?
Welcome to the Josh Bolton Show, where we dive into interesting and inspiring conversations. And now, your host, Josh Bolton.
But yeah, that's interesting. So then, what else do you do other than your coaching and financial advice stuff?
That's what, pretty much what I do is I work with people on developing like strategic financial plans. And then after the planning is clear, then we place the investments for people in the markets.
Okay.
That's what we do every day.
So is it more of advice or do you actually manage their money too?
We manage the money too. So it's advice first, and then we implementate the investments.
Okay. So for those who don't have like a high risk, but they're not completely conservative, would you a dollar cost average for the S&P 500 be one that you would advise?
Well, the S&P 500 is considered to be, that's an aggressive asset. When you start talking equities are not conservative, never fall into the basket of conservative, even the S&P 500, right? So conservative and equities are the polar opposite. So When you start mentioning conservative, you want to buy CDs, treasuries, certain bonds. When you start talking about equities, you start moving to moderately aggressive and aggressive.
What's the most aggressive in your scale for?
I would say, somebody buying like small cap and mid cap equities would be the most aggressive. But if somebody's dollar cost averaging into those asset classes, the 10-year, when you look at it from a decade perspective, they usually do pretty good.
Yeah, usually. It'll be like we were talking about earlier. It'll be interesting how this plays out currently. What's going on?
Totally. I think this has just been a really bad year. I think that next year, I'm hopeful that, that things are going to get better.
Yeah, me too. So then, I'll chop all that out. How do I properly say your name?
Rocco is my first name. My last name is Carriero. So Rocco Carriero is my name.
Carriero. Okay. Chop all that out. Welcome, everybody. Today we have Rocco Carriero. Hopefully I said that right. But we're going to talk about some awesome stuff. We were just chatting about investing and trading, especially on the recording of this on the 6th of October, how the market's just whipping everywhere. Our different points of views, but he has some great takes on business and advice and just life in general. Take it away.
Well, Josh, first of all, thanks for having me on your show today.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the things we wanted to talk about today is this book I wrote called The Three Chords Approach to Life and Wealth Management for Business Owners. Mm-hmm. And the book really takes a look at a person's business life / financial, their life as a family person, and then their life as an individual. And the three chords approach really is another way to look at comprehensive planning. So the book goes over financial planning strategies, but uses a three-chord approach to make all those different things happen.
That's interesting. Can you go into the first chord of it all?
Sure. So now everybody's like, well, what's the first chord? Each of the chords are equally as important. They really are. And so there's no right or wrong way as to what somebody might say the first chord, the second chord, the third chord is. Okay. And so for our purposes in this conversation, let's kind of take a look at the first chord being business, right? And so take a business person, first quarter, having a strong business, having things set up financially in a way where you're really strong is really important. And so, as well as your financial matters, and that's usually achieved through doing good long-term comprehensive financial planning and business planning. So that represents, so business and finance is the first chord.
Okay. So then on the note of business, do you talk about the aspect of work-life balance? Because an entrepreneur's life is it's either it's all or nothing kind of thing at times.
Yeah. So we do talk about that. And, it's very hard, to do everything well at once. So in the book, we kind of talk about, when you're focused on business, you want to try to be focused on business as much as possible. When you're focused on family, be there for your family. When you're focused on yourself, you're paying attention to what you're doing on your own. And that's really the concept. You can't do all three well at the same time. You got to have periods of like when you're doing things. So if you're working in your business, you're growing your business, you kind of want to be there fully for your business, right? If you're there with your family and you're at your kid's soccer game, you want to make sure you're at the soccer game and that you're not on your iProduct or texting or, talking to somebody. And then the last piece, of course, is, yourself, right? So if you got to make the time to do the things for yourself to make sure that you're healthy, mentally, physically, spiritually, all of those different pieces.
Yeah, that's the biggest one. As I've talked to the different entrepreneurs, some of them said we learned this lesson way too late in life and forgot to prioritize ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. That is, I've met really, I've been working with highly successful CEOs, entrepreneurs, and business owners for 25 years. And a lot of times, it's not intentional, but business owners really focus the majority of their time on their business. And then sometimes what happens is that their family takes a back seat to it. And that does impact things later on down the road. And also, let's say you take a business owner who's got a really successful business, but they're there for their family, but then they don't pay attention to themselves as far as taking care of their well-being. Or you get a guy that's really terrific at being a family person. They're really great at looking after themselves, but they're letting their business just go to the wayside. So all three are important. All three, each chord individually is not as strong as when all three are together. It's a really important point. And the three chords separately could snap, but it's when you put all three together, now you got a rope, and that makes things really strong.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you wrap the three together, it's a rope. It's hard to break it.
Impossible.
It is at times. So then what are some of the other aspects that you go into with your book?
Other aspects, we kind of talk about my background is, getting into business. I learned a lot about business from my father. Basically, my dad had a tailor shop in our local hometown, and while I was at the tailor shop, I got to see how he worked with his customers, and he never wanted me to learn how to be a tailor. I literally, unfortunately, can't even sew a button onto a shirt. And he wanted me to sit at the desk and watch how he dealt with his customers. He wanted me to read, and he wanted me to write, and he wanted me to do math. He said, you're not going to touch any of these machines. You're not doing any of that. And I really didn't understand that at the time. I kind of was actually kind of angry, saying, why won't you let me use the press machine? Why don't you let me do these different things? And he was very adamant about me not. And, I guess it kind of worked out okay for me by focusing on the things that he told me to focus on.
Yeah, I'm sure he was seeing it. He's like, my industry, my business, it's not going to last. So I learned a trade that's going to disappear eventually.
Totally. That's basically what happened. Now people, they rip their pants and they just throw them away and go buy another one. Years ago, people go to a tailor, get the pants fixed or whatever. And now we live in this disposable society. You just throw things out and go get another pair.
Yeah. Yeah. Although when I rip pants, it's usually at the seam, so it's not really easy to repair.
There you go. So you should go out and buy a new pair.
I was like, that one is like, okay, I'll go buy a new one. But yeah, like different shirts. For the longest time, I would patch them up too.
Yeah, that's and so yeah, that's so I'm a product of I'm a first generation American. My parents came from Italy, and they came in the early 1960s. And I'm very proud of our heritage. I'm very proud of the lessons that I learned, and I'm proud of the culture. Italian people are very hospitable. They like to eat and hang out and socialize. And it's one of the things that I was around my whole life. And that too has been a great thing. So I kind of talk about that in the book too. But the book is really a financial planning book that's focused on doing financial planning, and then takes the three chords approach and kind of wraps it into it.
So then what are some of the strategies that you go into for the financial planning of the book?
Well, first thing we do is we kind of have people take a look at their assets, their liabilities, their income, their expenses, their risk management, their estate planning, kind of where they stand today.
Okay.
And then they talk about, okay, this is where I want to go. And then, so let's say a person has, $500,000. So like, listen, I want to have $3 million by the time I retire. And then we build out this plan saying, okay, well, if you do this year in and year out, by the time you retire, you will get to that $3 million mark. And that really ties in with what we do with people every day within our practice.
That's impressive. So I'm just curious, for me, a profile for 29-year-old working a minimum wage job, has a Roth IRA. What would be a strategy you would recommend to that?
That's a great question, because I get that question a lot, where people say, well, this is my situation. This is what I earn. What should I do? And I always ask people, well, more importantly, to the as is, you just shared with me about the reality. What do you really want for yourself? So what is it that you would want for yourself, in 10, 20, 30 years from now? And once that's clearly defined, if you said, I'd like work to be optional, I'd like to live comfortably off of my resources, I'd like to do all these different things, then we could really help to build you out a plan that's going to help you get there. So if you said, I need this much income, then I would suggest, and if the income that you're earning now cannot fund the retirement goal, I'm going to suggest to you that you go out there and do something different to earn more. Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's a very good point. And yeah, it was like you were saying earlier, I guess my goal is to get to the point where work is optional. If I want to take a week off, I can, because my assets are paying me enough, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, I get the picture. Thank you. So then getting back to my case, let's say it's a person earning $60K a year, can set aside at least 20, just needs $40K a year to get by. They're not in California, because
I like that person. That person seems very financially responsible. Okay.
What would be some of the strategies from the book, but also from you, that you would recommend to put that 20K to work?
Well, the first thing is, if they're working someplace that have access to a 401k plan, they could put $19,500 into their 401k plan. Maybe get a company match depending on the company's plan. But that's kind of a home run right there. They bank 20 grand. If they could bank $20,000 a year for a while, they'll be really, really great shape in retirement. But let's say if they could bank $20,000 a year over the next 20 years, they'll be in great shape.
Okay. So I would just think of an avatar where they can reasonably set aside that much money. Okay, cool. Do you also in your practice help people figure out, I wouldn't necessarily say run their business, but advise them in different ways to optimize it?
Yeah. I did that this morning. That was my first appointment this morning.
Okay.
And we work with business owners on structuring a team who the business owner surrounds themselves with, who's their risk manager in terms of insurance, who's their attorney, who's their accountant, who's their banker, who's their financial advisor, who's their estate planning attorney. So we look at all those different things to make sure that business owners really have a sound group of people around them to help them achieve their financial goals.
Interesting. So then what was, without giving too much information away, what was their biggest critique that you pointed out to them that they didn't even see coming?
They were a young couple and they didn't have risk management. 3 kids, didn't have any life insurance. That's, they had a great business making lots of money. However, if something happened to the primary earning person in that relationship, they're in big trouble. And so, that was, I said, before you really do anything here, we need to get risk management in place.
Interesting. So would that be like term or whole life for them?
It depends on their cash flow, but probably be a combination of both. Okay. Some term and some permanent. And that's really that would be part of the idea.
Okay. Do you also recommend if they go with the whole life route, they get the Bank on You certified insurer so they can also pull out on their life insurance? Or is that more?
Yeah, some people like to use that, the cash value life insurance and turn it into retirement income life insurance strategies. Definitely, but first, we want them to max out their 401k plan. And then after that, if they want to use retirement, if their cash flow is good enough, we then would, have them use retirement income life insurance.
Okay. So, but that's a more, once everything's established, then you do that strategy?
Yeah. But, once everything's established, but getting the term insurance set up quick is something for them. I said, you really got to get this going. So.
Interesting. Very interesting. I just want to touch on something earlier. You mentioned your the Italian family. Can you give us a little bit of a up and coming story? Like you told us about your father and your family, but what were like the events that led up to you being where you are today?
I would say that. So I've always liked helping people. So I've always had that interest, even from a young child, and I liked helping people. I liked business. I liked looking at companies and understanding why they worked or why one company was better than the other. And so when I was in college, I interned in the business, and I really got kind of a better idea as to how it works with security selection and doing that. And I also, so I knew I didn't want to be an analyst because I liked working directly with people, or a portfolio manager. So I really liked the idea of sitting around the table, talking to people, and people telling me their problems, and then me coming up with solutions and how to help them achieve those financial goals. And that's kind of how I ended up in this world 25 years ago.
A lot of people were asking you, oh, this, can you help us with our finances? Or you like bumped into some person that put you on this path?
I knew that I wanted to be, in the world of financial services. Actually, my first thought was that I was going to be an investment banker and I was going to travel the world and raise capital. But as I told you, first generation Italian American, close with my parents, I knew that job would require me to travel a lot. And I did not want to be more than 25, 30 minutes away from my home. So being in the world of financial services, you had to work in the world of retail in order to basically be able to work in, Suburbiaville, right? Suburbia. Now there's so much more technology where people could trade from anywhere. But, 25 years ago, you would work with the retail market, the individual people, and that allowed me to be close to home.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially 25 years ago, I think online trading was just starting, but it was still kind of clunky.
Yeah. Just starting. Yep.
Yeah. I've heard some horror stories of people when they were first using E-Trade, I believe it was, and they were some of the people I have a Zoom call every like 2 weeks, and they're like, oh my gosh, we lost so much skin off our back because of that E-Trade, because it wouldn't execute when we needed it to.
Yeah. Still probably, when you think about, all this online trading, if your system goes down, I mean, people got to be careful of a lot of this stuff, but technology is much better now.
Yeah. And there's a lot of server-based stuff now. Like my TD Ameritrade, I just place an order. It's on the server. It'll execute when my rules are activated.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's yeah. So was it because you had to be more in suburbia? Was it because the clients, or did you have to be close to the trading area?
No, I wanted to be suburbia because I wanted to be close to my hometown and where my parents were. So, I could become a wealth manager for people in New York City, but that would, that was going to get me like an hour and a half commuting every day. So I wanted to spend my time in the office and working with clients. Didn't want to spend my time on a bus or a train or in the car. And so I was still living at home with my parents at the time. And so, this type of work was like the ideal space for me.
Okay. So then, tying back to your 3 chords aspect, how did you balance yourself with your rules that you have now? What would you have recommended to your younger self with the 3 chord principle?
Definitely to put more into my physical self, right? So I would tend to start and stop with exercising. And like right now, I'm doing pretty good. Been exercising for a couple of weeks every day. It's going great. But during the younger years, it was like I really didn't have time for anything, but really my work and my family, and I really didn't. And I did a lot of professional and personal development. It just wasn't in the physical space.
Okay. So it would be the focus on yourself and your well-being on top of everything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just guessing here. I'm sure you skipped a lot. You had a couple of sleepless nights.
I still have sleepless nights. I mean, I still do. I worry about my kids. I tend to worry. I think worrying is is this human element thing that we were programmed in as humans, thousands of years ago, right? And that kind of protected us from doing crazy things, right? So that's basically. But I still do worry. I worry about different things that I worried about 20 years ago. But worry, I think worry is not, not as bad as people like to make it out to be. I think some worry is good.
Yeah, it gives you a little edge, but not too much. And I have to agree with our ancestors. Worry was good because if you heard a bush shake, you weren't alert of it. It could have been a lion that just jumps out and kills you, kind of thing.
Exactly.
We don't have random lions jumping out and killing us, at least here in New York and LA area. Maybe in Montana, you might have that problem though.
Sometimes in Southampton, we got some bears locally, but I'm joking about that. But yeah, that's so I think the human brain was programmed to, as a defense mechanism, to have some worry and have the sleepless nights. But obviously during the caveman days, they weren't worried about the same things that we all worry about today.
Yeah, because we got our food relatively in check. We got our shelter. So it becomes the hierarchy system. Like, okay, now we got to worry about this and this, which requires, yeah. So what are you doing currently? Because you said you're exercising at least daily. Are you doing like going to the gym, riding your bike?
I got a gym at home, and what I've been really doing recently, which I really like, and it's kind of fun, is I've been working on a rebounder. It's like a little trampoline.
Okay.
And not a spring-based trampoline. It's got like these cords on it, and give them a little plug. It's called Bellycon is the company, and they make a premium little trampoline, and I jump on it for I think if you jump on it for 20 minutes, like it's equivalent to like being on the treadmill for like over an hour. And because when you jump up and down, as you're using certain muscles that you don't normally use, and that your body gets double the efficiency, because even though you're not working, but when you're coming down, your muscles are flexing. So I found it to be a very efficient way to exercise is using the trampoline.
It also gives you the benefit of moving your lymphatic system too.
Yes. Yep. Which is great too. So I like it. It's fun. It's different. And I'm going to continue to do it.
That's awesome. So then I'm just curious for you, if you're exercising, I'm just assuming you're slowly incorporating more healthier foods or have been eating healthier.
I go through phases with that. Sometimes I, eat really good keto or clean diet or this or that. And it's the red wine that actually kills me. It's those are like unnecessary calories, but I do try to eat good as much as I can. And I've got to do a better job of that as well.
Is it more like the red wine and the pasta is just like your kryptonite kind of thing?
Bread, red wine, pasta. It's not a lot of things I don't like, but it's, trying to stay away from those complex carbs, and sugars, right? So that's inside of wine, bread, and pasta. But
yes,
we're working on it. Yeah,
that is the hardest part, especially because it's so hard for the body to digest. It just spikes the insulin just on a whole gnarly level, and our bodies were meant to use sugar, but not to that caliber.
Not to that caliber, right? I mean, I'll eat some chocolate, but that's another thing. We just gotta, where you put energy, you usually see results. So if I put more energy into the diet, more energy into the exercise, you would think that you would see more results. So I just need more energy in that space.
So then, tying into that, how would you advise people to structure their lives and give more energy towards dieting?
Yeah, I would say that they got to develop a model calendar. And what a model calendar really does is it helps you to kind of lay out your day every day. You got to put in there when you're going to have your meals, and what you're going to eat. You got to make it as easy as possible, right? Okay. Eating at, 7, 11, 1, 3, 6, and this is what I'm going to be eating. If you make it as easy as possible, it tends to actually happen.
Yeah. That's the biggest one. As I've talked to different entrepreneurs, one of them, it was a lady, my earlier one, she jokingly was telling me, she's like, yeah, my day is so busy, I have to literally schedule in when I have to take a restroom break. I'm like, your bells don't work that way. You're like, oh, you only work from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. She's like, well, it kind of works for me. Like,
that's funny.
But but that's the biggest one. All the different entrepreneurs I've chatted with, they're like, yeah, like have a schedule, even if it's a rough outline, and just follow it.
It's hard. All this stuff is hard, But listen, if life's going to pass regardless. So if we're going to do it, just try to do the best job we can.
Yeah, try not to have as many regrets as possible. Just live life. Just live life. Honestly, I'm actually running out of questions to talk about. Is there anything I might have missed that you wanted to chat about?
No, I think you covered everything. I think you did a great job. And thank you very much for having me today. Kind of talk about the book. For people want to know more information about the book, they can go to my website, which is roccoacarriero.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been an absolute honor.
Thanks, Josh. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Well, congratulations. You made it to the end. You're an awesome person. Not many make it here. So, being the awesome person that you are, can you do me one more awesome favor? Can you rate and review this on whatever podcast services you're using? If you do it on Apple and you leave an actual written review, I have a thing on my website. I will take your written review and post it for all to see. Congratulations, you're permanently sealed on my site. Otherwise, I am trying to do YouTube more and live streaming. I will try to put as many of the YouTube links in the description of the show as I can. So give your boy some extra help over on YouTube. watch my videos. I just mute it and change the channel, change the window or something. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for being awesome, and see you next time.